Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to John White's reception of Art of Erosion. John White is from Ortonville, Minnesota, and takes such beautiful photographs of the earth, of the sky, of nature in general. And we have him here with us tonight. John, would you tell us a little bit about your work and specifically the art of erosion?
This is a combination of a lot of work over the years, but first of all, I would like to say thank God for the big snow cover this year and the ice that's come over the top of it, which is protecting the soil right now. And I'd like to offer insincere thanks to all the farmers who left their fields uncovered for 8 months after harvest before they get covered again. Otherwise, without the wind, none of this would have happened. So it's a total insincere thank you, because it's just awful. And people look at this winter as being, oh, we haven't had any problem this winter yet. But when we were traveling between Milan and Wilmer in what we call the Black Desert, yeah, it's already blowing. And right now we're getting a reprieve. In the old days, we'd call this $1 million snowstorm, except nobody's looking at it this way, you know, which is totally sad. My work on this started back in 2014. They had a snow on Thanksgiving Day, and we were in Missouri, and we traveled from my home in Northeast Missouri across to Iowa into southern Minnesota, and came all the way up to my place in Ortonville. And there was snert, as we call it, with a combination of snow and dirt, the whole trip. That's 500 miles, but we saw dirt that had been blown into the snow. And it was, and that really got me. It's like, God, we're wasting our soil away. And then I read this book by David Montgomery called Dirt, the End of Civilizations, and realized how serious this totally is. Because every single civilization since the beginning of mankind has had to move because of erosion. And if you look at what you every once in a while you see these pictures where they uncovered a beautiful mosaic in a desert, you know, what's there is, well, it's beautiful mosaic, but it's under 5 foot of erosion. And this happens all over the world. And in fact, the southern part of the United States, back after the country started getting together, they throughout the whole southern part of the country, they were growing tobacco and cotton, basically. And every single state along the way had lost their tilth, they've lost their everything due to erosion. And it kept moving west. And that's how the South got actually settled, going across from Virginia all the way over to Kentucky and stuff. And if you start from Nacogdoches, Texas, and I've done this, and go to the Appalachians, you'll now see millions of trees planted on both sides of the road. Those are old fields that are no longer can hold crops because they've all been eroded. There's no tilth left. There's no microbes left. They have nothing left, and so they planted plantations of pine trees. And if you leave on those highways, you can drive for hundreds of miles and not see anything but trees, thanks to erosion. So that holds it in place. It's amazing. So anyway, that year I came back after that trip, and it was between Christmas and New Year's. And I went out and I started looking, and I started seeing these patterns. And a lot of this stuff almost looks like, weird paintings by somebody like an abstract artist. And it's all done by wind and dirt. And it was amazing to me. And this show has been around for a little bit. I've added quite a few pieces to it since then. But we've got a serious problem. And some of the pictures I have here have explanations and quotes from different people who are involved in soil erosion and what it means. And it's like, it's earth shaking. And the thing is, we are now on the very last tillable soil in the world, in our planet. And it's blown away and it's being washed away. And it's a serious problem. And it's not being addressed very much. There is a group of people who are now starting to use cover crops. People up here, a lot of farmers say it's not possible. But my neighbor across the street, where I live in Ortonville, not street, but on the country road, 2 or 3 years ago, started using cover crops. So it can be done here. And there's a beautiful website, not website, but Facebook page called Everything Cover Crops, which talks about using cover crops. And there are questions, there are answers from people who do this stuff all the time. And basically, when you start using the cover crops, you retain soil moisture, which is like a horrible word here in Minnesota because they want to ditch and drain everything. But no, it retains the water, which you can use later in the crops. The crops can use that water, and it's not flooded. It's soaked into the soil. They cut down on chemical use because a lot of the weeds are no longer a problem because of using those. There's a burn down, of course, with the Roundup, which if you're not using GMO, you'd use a pre-plant herbicide, which is again Roundup, which kills everything. You can use no-till planters and stuff like that and plant your crops. And that holds the soil until the crops take over. The cheapest way of getting around that is simply not do anything. Just leave it there and start your tillage in the spring. That's the cheapest way of doing it. And if you drive down the road through any part of the Black Desert or anywhere else, you'll notice that when you're driving down the road, any tillage, of course, conservation tillage, or they want to call it, you'll see snurd, where there's either prairie grass or untilled cropland. The soil's protected. It's simple. So this is it. I encourage you to read the little things around the way, because a lot of explanations from people from the University of Iowa State, there's a lot of information here, as well as the pictures. So, any questions?
Just a plug. I work for the USDA ARS Natural Conservation Research Laboratory in Morris, Minnesota. I'm research director there. That lab was brought here by the grassroots efforts of the community who worked on this problem 65 years ago.
Wow.
We know what the answers are. I have with me Dr. Sharon Wires and Dr. Carrie Eberly. And I would invite folks to join us for a few days in June 8th to learn more about what they're doing with developing new oilseed crops to get a cash crop, as well as cover in the wintertime to protect our soils. We know the soil needs. We've been working on it hard for 65 years. And this document breaks my heart. I see it every day.
Yep.
So thank you for documenting it and speaking on behalf of the soil. Thank you.
Well done, John.
It's the the last soil we have. You know, we got more babies being born all the time, you know, and this is it. You know, once it's gone, where do we go?
One of my favorite definitions.
It's a
of
serious
soil-
issue. It's a totally serious issue.
Favorite definition of soil, it's what stands between us and starvation. We have to take care of it. Thank you for bringing it to life.
Mhm.
Can you say that again?
We can't hear back here. Oh, I'm sorry. I said my favorite definition of soil is what stands between us and starvation. It's not my quote. I stole it from someone. But you've done such an elegant job of stating it. You've done a wonderful job. of bringing
Well,
it
thank
to
you.
life.
Thank you.
So what's your definition of putting all the solar panels up on the cropland?
Well, if the soil panels are up there and you leave the grass underneath and the cows are underneath it, your soil is covered.
I don't see any cattle around the.
Well, they can be. I mean, there's work being done by the Research and Outreach Center and how you can put cattle underneath there. Other agencies are looking at that because it provides shade for the cattle. They graze underneath. And now we've gotten 2 products from it, a place for our cows as well as energy without having to mine and use more oil.
But cattle also rub against all that stuff too.
Well, they
And
can.
run boxes.
It's not perfect, but it's a step in the right direction. It's looking for solutions.
Another step in the right direction is the use of currency. Is that the way you say it?
Currency. You have one of the experts on it.
No.
Okay.
Please come in here and talk. They several area farmers in the Madison, Ortonville, can't remember the guy's name up there in Browns Valley. But it's a perennial crop that can be harvested year after year. This is where you need to come in here and talk, please.
Well, I'll stand here and talk, but yes, it's, so one of the things that agricultural research is moving towards is trying to develop perennial crop systems.
You don't know how many years.
Yeah, thank you.
And no
I
wonder
dressed
the answer.
for public appearance tonight. So one of the tools that we have in agriculture is perennial cropping systems. The benefit being they cover the ground year round and allow us to leave the soil undisturbed for multiple years at a time. So similar to what you would find in alfalfa, right? Where you can leave that ground protected. It allows the ground to be restored and recovered, and then you can move it into other systems without the same degradation. Kernza is a small grain that has renewed interest and is taking off because it's a little lower water use. It has a really nice deep root system, and there's a big effort in developing products around it and learning how to manage it and increase yields as another crop for farmers to grow that will protect their soils and hopefully help improve their soils on their farms. Is that okay?
That's beautiful.
Okay, can I go back behind the wall?
You never look like a wallflower.
So, and I will just reiterate what Jane said. So we're from the ARS lab up on the hill right next to Superior. We are doing our field day this year, June 8th. We'll do some advertising at some point, but we haven't had one for 4 years.
Since pre-COVID.
So
And it's
we-
our 60th anniversary.
Yep. So we'll be talking about a lot of this stuff. We'll be showing some of the work that we've done, talking about some of the improvements. So if you're interested in the topic or know people who are, keep an eye out for those blurbs that'll be in the paper and radio and wherever else. I've only been here for a year, so I don't know where they all have. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I was,
So glad
the-
for
the-
getting
the-
an invitation.
The work that Peter and Ann Swiggle are doing near Browns Valley, is the ones I was thinking of, But I've also been given a gift of Kernsia flakes, like corn flakes, and they're very delicious. And boy, it's great with yogurt, especially with some blueberries with it.
And I think Minnewaska House has a beer, a Kernza beer. Is that right, Sharon? Minnewaska
Yes,
House?
it's Minnewaska
Yeah,
House.
so they have a Kernza beer that I've heard is very good.
So is Kearns up picking up as a crop, alternative crop?
Slowly, it needs some breeding efforts and some more work on managing it, but there are production acres. There are guys who grow it. Its grain yield is what needs improvement, but what a lot of producers are doing is harvesting it for yield and then using it as a grazing crop or a hay crop in the following years.
So as a perennial, how long can you expect it to be producing?
Right now, it's kind of 3 years is
Yeah.
what they expect for the stand before it starts to decline. And part of that is it'll compete with each other and it goes fully vegetative. It won't keep producing
You'll
grain.
compete with?
The plants are so vigorous that your stand kind of starts to choke itself out
Okay.
and you're not going to get the grain yield. So 3 years is about the standard production timeline.
And then they replanted or
Go into something else. So you could go into, if you wanted to stay in perennials, you could go into alfalfa following it. There's work now on perennial flax. That's beginning. So we're hoping to have some more options, or you could go back into corn, soybean, and go through a rotation and then go back into your perennial grass to kind of re-secure that system.
And does Kearns help segregate the nitrogen in the same way that alfalfa does?
So Kernza is a grass and it's not gonna fix nitrogen. So alfalfa is able, so it works with bacteria in the soil that allows it to take nitrogen from the atmosphere and move it into the soil and make it available to the plants. Kernza doesn't do that. What it does do is have very deep roots that will
A lot of
capture
people talk
nitrogen
about
and
how,
stop it from moving into the groundwater.
This just happens along the edge of the roadside.
So it's gonna.
This is
hold
a
it in
quarter
the
mile from the
system,
field.
But it's not gonna bring more into the system.
So the wind has blown this all the way down for a quarter mile.
So John, can you talk a little bit more about some of the specific pieces? Like you were just mentioning, this one was a quarter mile off the,
Yeah,
off of the
people
field?
kind of think that the wind is sort of like, I mean, there's a difference between soil and dirt. Dirt is what blows, soil is what you plant into, okay? So this one is taken down the road from where I live. And you talk about how you think it's just on the edge of the roadside, like you see here. And in this picture, which is taken on County Road 8 here in Stevens County, that road, that blew so much on one side and across the highway that they had to come in with front end loaders and scrape the dirt and put it back into the field. And they did it only on next to the road on the right-hand side going west, and then touched the other side because of somebody else's ditch, I guess. This one, yeah, like I just said, that's a quarter mile away. This one is interesting because also it's just down the road from County Road 8. This is the crop fields over here. This is all grazing land where this farmer has cattle during the year. And so this is all blown dirt off that one field. And you see this little valley going through here? That's a Palmdale River. So that soil, that dirt was probably going to end up in the river someplace. And a lot of people like the cat. That cat is pure white. And it's not pure white, that picture. You want me down over here?
John, we have a question online.
Okay.
The questioner would like you to comment on the role of the artist in changing public attitudes about soil conservation. What is it like as an artist to make beautiful art out of something as ugly as soil devastation?
I think that's why we do it.
Can you summarize what she asked you?
Yeah.
Before you answer?
Oh, okay. You want to know the role of art plays in looking at issues like this that we're facing on a basis like this. And it could be many different things from racism to whatever, but in this case, living in the country, I decided to work with dirt because it's a major issue and it's a life-threatening issue we're dealing with. And years ago, is like somebody said, well, what you're doing is making the ugly pretty. And if you don't make the ugly pretty, no one's going to get into it. They're not going to it's not going to mean anything to them. So you have to get people to see the stuff and what it means. And that's what I'm trying to do. I mean, this is ugly. You know, what we're facing is ugly. And people just drive down the road like, I can't imagine a farmer who has soil watching millions of dollars worth of soil blown off his field and not think anything about it. I can't understand that. I can't understand that. It just doesn't make any sense. But anyway, going along, a lot of these are just beautiful abstracts, you know, like a friend of mine said this one, if I had this blown up to like 6 foot wide and stuff like that and had it in the cities, people would jump all over the fact that, wow, that's a really neat abstract, you know, but I just love this. It's got all this wavy stuff in it, and a little thing going off like that. And this almost looks like a chocolate pudding. It's got a little bit of, you know, it's just cool stuff, and it's just laying there. Here's two pictures. You know, people look at this and they don't realize that that's the top of the field. But there, and all this is dirt that's blown in. And this is a railroad track taken from a viaduct, and you see all the dirt. It's just amazing stuff. You know, I don't know why people can't see that and work with it. Do you have an answer? I don't either. Any other questions?
What comes next for you?
Hmm?
What are you gonna do next? Continuing on, or you?
Yeah, I worked on a couple of other different things, like in 1997, we had major, it's like this winter, but a lot of snow and stuff like that. And I was running a country weekly, and the sheriff, and we were having flood because we had a quick melt, but the soil was frozen, so all of us running off the fields into the Hawk Creek, because I was living in a small town near there. And the man who was the fire chief came in, and he says, "Hey, I'm going to fly over this. You want to come with me?" I said, "Sure." And so went out, took my camera, get some stuff, and I started noticing there was all these puddles of water looking out. And I said, "So what is all this?" And he says, "Oh, those are old wetlands that have all been drained." And I realized that this land that we were living in was totally drained, ditched, and everything. And so the entire 99%, I've learned since then, 99% of the prairie has been drained and ditched. And so 99% of the wetlands are gone, 99% of the prairie is gone. And so I started taking pictures of prairies and trying to show people what it might have looked like if they would have saved, you know, had a little more balance. And this is one of the most, we're living in one of the most destroyed ecosystems in the entire world. We're living in it, we're farming in it, we have towns in it. We're living in a place that's just been totally devastated as far as ecosystem goes. And this is part of it. And so a lot of my work is dealing with trying to take pictures of what it might have looked like if we kept it. And people kind of who go with me out on my photo forays wonder why I keep moving and getting to different places, because I don't want to show anything in those pictures has anything to do with mankind. You know, I want to try to keep it pure as possible. And so I do, a lot of my work is called the prairie impressionism, and it has to do with the prairie, with the wetlands and stuff like that. And of course, you can't get away from the trees because a lot of trees were here before. And so I think a lot of the agriculturalists say, oh, we'll make this more prairie. So they cut down more trees, but there's no way of protecting the soil from the wind. But the thing is, when there was no trees here, there was prairie. There were bison. There were all kinds of stuff that had a natural life in the prairie, which no longer exists.
Grasses with the deep roots and everything.
Mhm. And so I do, a lot of my shows deal with those, a lot of my exhibits or shows, whatever you want to call them, deal with those types of pictures. So that's what I do as an artist.
Thank you so much, John, for being here at the Prairie Renaissance Cultural Alliance today and exhibiting your work. I think it's an important topic, and I'm very excited that folks in the community from the Soils Lab and around the community came to join in the conversation tonight. So thank you for what you do and for your work and for being here tonight. And with that, we'll sign off. Thanks,
Thank you.
John.